Welcome to this programming instruction series. I'm honored that you clicked on this video. In this video and in the series of videos that are going to come, we're going to be exploring Python. Python is a really powerful and popular programming language. Learning Python, and first of all, starting with the basics, is going to teach you not only how to be a programmer and be successful as a programmer, but also essentially critical thinking. It's going to teach you how to be a better thinker. It's just like doing math. Doing math is really helpful, not just because it's cool, but it's also helpful because it teaches you how to think, and that's very important. With that being said, let's get started with an introduction to programming, and then we'll talk about just a little bit of what Python is, and then we'll go into print statements, and we'll call it a day with this video. And then we'll go to the next video, we'll talk about data and storing data and using data in Python. What is programming? I like to explain programming like this because I don't know a different way to explain it, but I think this works because it worked for me when I learned it. So when you think about programming, think about a way to communicate with the computer. It's as simple as that. For example, communicating with a friend, you talk to a friend and you use a language to talk. It could be sign language, it could be English, it could be some other language, Spanish, etc. But the thing with programming is that it's not like talking to a friend. It's not exactly like talking to a friend. Because when you talk to a friend, you make jokes and you're sarcastic sometimes. But if you're sarcastic with a computer, you just can't be. Because if you use sarcasm, the program it's not going to understand. The computer's not going to understand. You have to be as specific as possible and follow the set of rules that the certain programming language asks you to follow in order to successfully communicate with the computer and call the computer your friend. You have to be as specific as possible. You have to use all the rules, and you have to follow all the rules, and you have to abide by them. If you don't, you just can't communicate. It won't be your friend. And so, just like you communicate with your friend, you probably have many friends who you communicate with. They might speak different languages, and you might know different languages and communicate with them. Just like that, programming, there are many programming languages. So you can talk to a computer using many different programming languages. One of them happens to be Python. Other programming languages include Java, C++, etc. So that's just a kind of an introduction to programming. Hopefully that helps. Now let's talk about Python. Python is just one of the many languages that we are going to be using, and as I said, I think in the beginning of this video, it's quite a popular language in industry. So knowing programming, specifically in Python, is quite useful. In fact, Python is a little bit more straightforward and intuitive compared to some of the other programming languages. So if this is your first time programming, it's a good idea that you chose Python. I didn't start with Python, I started with Java, but it's still good that you chose Python since it's pretty straightforward, and it's going to really get you to understand and hopefully appreciate the beauty of programming. So that's quite a lot of speaking. Let's get started with print statements. I'm also going to introduce you to comments because I'm going to be commenting on all my files because that's just something I like to do to be organized. What I like to do is start my program with a comment. So how do I do that? In Python, a single line comment, in order to do that, all you need to do is just add this symbol right here. I think it's like a hashtag symbol, whatever. I don't exactly know what it's called. Maybe it's a pound key. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's basically the key. If you press Shift 3, you can access that. That's basically what it is. And so anything after this, after this key is going to be a comment, and the program, the computer, is going to ignore it. It's not going to evaluate, it's just going to ignore it. So if I add something like hello, it's going to ignore this. This is just for programmers and to be organized. Now what I like to do is, I don't like to just add hello, I like to add what I'm going to do in this program. What is the purpose of this program? There has to be a purpose. If your purpose is just having fun, then just write having fun. Here it's to teach, to instruct. We'll stick with teach, to teach print statements in Python. That is exactly what we're doing. Print statements in Python. I just like to add a blank line in between just for organization purposes. Completely optional. You don't even need to add this actually. It's completely optional. But it's good. So I'm going to do that. Next, we add our print statement. Now, the print statement in Python is just going to be print and then a set of parentheses. You don't even need the space in between. I just like to add it for like nice, just to look nice and not crowded. So basically print parentheses. Inside of this is what, inside the set of parentheses is what you want to print. So if I want to print hello world, which is often printed first when you first learn programming, you can go ahead and do so. I will do that. So hello world. Since hello world is it's like a sentence, I guess you could say. It's not really a sentence, but it's a phrase. It goes within the set of double quotations, and we call that a string. We'll talk about strings later, but strings are basically just, characters put together, and that's what a string is. And we'll talk about the beauty and power of strings later. So I can just go ahead and add that within double quotations, hello world. And this is basically like how you would type it out if you were typing on a Google Doc or something. That's it. That is all you got to do. You are done. You're going to print hello world. This is going to be your first if this is your first time programming, this is going to be your first programming output. This is your first program. But before you do anything, don't just click on run, because if you click on this button, which is a play button, it's just going to run. But notice if I click on run, and this is specific to Visual Studio Code, nothing happens. Nothing happened. Ignore all of this. This is from previous program outputs, but nothing happened. The reason why is because we haven't clicked on save. Notice it's one unsaved file. So let's click on save. The way I do that is I can just do Command S. Maybe there's another way to do so. You can click on save like this, but it's just Command S is just easier, or Control S if you're on a PC. Or I think there's autosave. You can click on autosave. I think that automatically does that, but I'll just do Command S. I think it's easier. So maybe not easier, but it's just what I'm used to when I work with Visual Studio Code. Now we can click on run, and your first output. That's beautiful. You should be proud. Let's go ahead and get rid of this, and let's now print out a triangle. This is just to kind of play around with print statements. You can end the video here if you don't want to do this, but I think it's a good idea, so let's do that. What we'll do here is we'll replace to teach print statements in Python. I guess that's still true, with to teach print statements in Python by printing, actually I don't need the parentheses, by printing out a triangle. To be more specific. So let's print it out. Print. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the / and then a vertical bar. It's going to be a right triangle, basically a triangle with a 90-degree angle, and that's basically what we're going to be doing. But I also need some spaces, and you'll see why. That's the first one. Actually, I don't need spaces. I don't think I need spaces here. The second one is print, and then here, whoops, ignore that. Here what I'll do is I'll just add one space and that, just like that, and then another one, print. This time I don't need any spaces at all, and then 2 spaces in between, and then that. Finally, I will need, actually I'll just do it here, I'll need some underscores here. I think 1 underscore is honestly should suffice. Maybe 2. That's good. So look at that. That's a nice triangle. You can even see it. You don't even have to print it. You can just see it right here. But of course, we want to print it because we want to see it in the output here. So let's do that. So Command S and then say print. Look at that nice nice piece of art. I could sell this in the marketplace. Anyway, that is print statements. That is pretty much the first programming lecture. We'll go over more videos in programming to talk about other important concepts. Hope you found this video helpful and useful.